Hi, this is CJ from Access Specialties. Welcome to another online training session. Today we're going to learn about the EH400K. This is the standard unit that interfaces with the Focal Point software. I'll be talking about some of the features of this particular unit. This unit can be powered up with either 12 or 24 volts DC with a separate power supply, or you can power it up with a PoE Ethernet cable. In this particular case, I'm using just a standard Ethernet cable, and I'm using my own 12 volt separate power supply which plugs in here. Over here on the right hand side of it is where the reader, the Wiegand reader, would attach. Basically you're looking at your connections, the bottom four connections, your Wiegand reader power, ground, data 0, and data 1. Those are the four connections you're going to have for a reader to work. You also optionally can connect an LED wire to control the color of the LED, either red or green. But those are the only connections you should have to worry about for a reader. All of the other connections up here you can just ignore. Once you get the unit powered up, on the other side of it, on the left-hand side up here, we've got the connections for the actual door strike or mag lock. And you have several choices to make. You can either power it up with a dry output, in which case you're providing your own power supply for the door strike or mag lock. But by moving these jumpers, you can configure this controller so that it will work with either 12 volt output or 24 volt output. So if you've got a 12 volt door strike, you can move the jumpers to 12 volt, and you'll have 12 volts output between common and normally open. If you want 24 volts, you just move the jumpers again, and you can have 24 volt output across the relays. So this is a very flexible unit that allows you to choose how you want to power your door strikes or mag locks. In addition, you do have an auxiliary output relay, and that relay is specifically tied to the tamper input. So anytime that a tamper is generated, the auxiliary relay will energize. The DS, the door strike, that's specifically for your door strike or your mag lock. So if you're going to be wiring up a door strike or mag lock, you're going to be using the DS connection, which is labeled right here on the board. Down here on the bottom left part of the controller, this is where the actual door inputs and outputs wire into. On the very bottom we have the door monitor. So this is where your door contact is going to be wired to. This is going to give you your door held open, door closed, forced entry messages. If you're not going to be using a door contact, you're going to have to put a jumper across the door plus and minus. Otherwise you'll be getting a steady beep message coming from the controller indicating that the door has been held open. Right above it you have two pins that are for the REX, the request to exit. This is where you're going to wire the request to exit sensor or a request to exit button to unlock the door. Anytime you close those two pins, it's going to unlock the door just like an access granted. The two connections above that, the battery and the AC, are user-definable inputs. You can use those inputs to monitor any open or closed condition from any piece of hardware that you have. These are totally optional. You don't have to use these. And at the very top we've got the tamper pins. And the tamper is specifically to monitor a tamper position, and you'll get a tamper message in the Focal Point software. Anytime you open or close the tamper pins, you will also energize the auxiliary relay. So you can also wire the auxiliary relay to some type of an alarm or light or something to indicate that the unit is being tampered with. But again, that's totally optional. You don't have to wire anything with that. This unit has everything you need to connect to a reader and the door hardware. It's got all the inputs and outputs. It's very easy to configure within the Focal Point software. The only thing you really have to know is the MAC address, which is printed on the bottom of the board. And that MAC address is used by the Focal Point software to find this unit and to connect to it. And this unit will handle all of your access control needs for one door. Thanks for listening.